I think I said, well, I'm ready to move in whatever direction you guys think we should go.
I have a couple more questions myself, just to understand that. And I don't know, let's do 15. I'll make a motion to extend the executive session by 15 minutes.
I'll second.
Motion to extend executive session for 15 minutes by Mr. Welch. I do not have the place.
We need a meeting here in the, where the executive session is, the executive session to be in the council chambers and to resume at, I gotta get the right hour there. I can't do the math.
9:53.
9:53.
The motion I have from Mr. Welch is that it's executive session for 15 minutes. Chamber of Council chamber room at 9:53. And do you confirm that on second, Dr. Trevor?
Yeah.
Hearing none, call for vote. All in favor, say
Aye.
Executive session for an additional 15 minutes. Okay, great. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. We held an executive session. No binding action was taken, and so the meeting is back in order. Ready to move on to next item.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Smith.
I mentioned before the meeting, I thought it was interesting that we didn't have a section on here for citizen concerns, which we typically do at a council meeting. And I know we have folks in the audience, and so I would like to make a motion to add an agenda item for a citizens concern section before item A.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion before item A to listen to citizen concerns by Mr. Smith and a second by Dr. Schroeder. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say, in favor of the amended agenda amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. We now have an agenda item to listen to citizens' concerns. Any citizens, Bonnie, or I think, we have anybody else there? You're just you. Okay, so would you like to address council? Very good.
Hello, my name is Bonnie Stinson, live at 3800 North Harding.
We can't hear it all.
Is he on now?
Yeah, it's on now.
Okay, very good.
My name's Bonnie Stinson. I live at 3800 North Harding. I know I'm not a stranger to you guys, so hi. I noticed that you called a special meeting for the salary pay, and so that got my curiosity up, let's say. So I kind of started looking at things, and because council's charged with the responsibility of overseeing the budget, the funds of the city, I thought I would just give a couple of comments on the proposals. This past year, you guys raised our water bill 3%. Our sewer bill went up 3%. You also raised the gas franchise to 6%, which we get to pay. And in that time, the mill levy rate went up all 10% for the city as a whole, which brought in an additional $294,000 for you guys on your budget. So I started looking at the salary for this year, or 2020, excuse me. And I actually put together a spreadsheet of some of my numbers. And what I came up with was $1,452,664 were spent in salaries this year. That was for general, water, sewer, and special highways, special street and highway funds, okay? So that was the total amount that I gleaned from the appropriations. The budget had $2,306,950 budgeted for personnel out of general, not the others. So actually all funds was $3,079,300. I hope I said that right. Was what it was budgeted for the personnel. So now you have the actual expenses versus what was budgeted. We got $1 million difference here of money floating around somewhere, I think. I don't know. It seems odd to me that there's that much money out there floating around. I don't know where it goes. But I do know that in July of last year, you guys talked about salaries. And the big thing was the PD, police department. And I actually feel like the police department deserves that $1 million, to be quite honest with you. I think they work hard. I've seen them work hard. I live on a main thoroughfare, so I know they're out there. Trust me. I get up in the middle of the night and I'm seeing blue lights flashing. So I know that they're working nonstop for the citizens. I actually went on, and are you gonna cut me off?
Yeah, you're out of time. That's what that
I know,
timer thing was about.
fine. Well, I guess I want to know, I had a few more questions. The health benefits. I found that some cities actually let council see the contracts and they actually decide what they're going to do with that. I put numbers to what we spent on health insurance off of the appropriations, right? And I ended up with, and I'll make this fast, okay? $332,666. And I don't know if you guys requested that amount, but that's actually what I found in the appropriations for the dental and the health insurance that our city's paying. And if it's not keeping people here, like some of these memos are saying, the turnover, then let's look at reducing this health insurance because it's not keeping people here, evidently. It doesn't make sense to me, dollars or whatever. So I guess that's the bottom line, I think we're overestimating some of these budget items. And I think we're giving our employees something that they really don't, it doesn't matter. They're going to leave anyway if they find a better place to go. I'm not telling you how to run business, but I am giving you a little feedback on what I found. So thank you for letting me go over my time.
Thank you. I appreciate the perspective. It's always helpful to get your perspective. Thank you. Mr. Lasher, did you have a PowerPoint you wanted to show us real quick?
Yes, so on your agenda tonight, there is an action that you're considering, and Bonnie had mentioned that. So I put together a PowerPoint to kind of discuss. Let me see if I can get to it. It's not there. So kind of discuss where we're at and why it is that you're considering this change. So, so basically the city hired Wichita State University to do a salary study. Reason being is that we don't have staff on hand to be able to spend the time and the expertise. Sedgwick County Wichita State just completed a salary study for Sedgwick County of 750 positions. We have 40 employees here. But anyway, so what that study proved was that, or identified, was administration positions were below the market peer wages. So basically they looked at what other cities, that's our market, is other cities. Because a police officer is going to go to another city, typically not a private company, unless they're security. Public works comparisons, they were better aligned. So public works were pretty much in line with what those cities pay. That we did have some supervisory positions that needed adjusted. Police department was the one that was well below. So overall, when we looked at 70% of the midpoint, and again, that's the midpoint, not the starting or the ending, that's the average, were below. And that's what you're considering is why you're looking at moving that comparison. So what changes? So basically what changes is in your packet, it says 2019, I believe it was the last major change that the pay schedule occurred was in 2016, and that's what we're still using today, 10 grades, 15 steps. So the 2021 proposed schedule is 12 grades with 15 steps. So basically all the police positions were adjusted. And that salary increase cost is about $120,000 per year. All the other grades were adjusted to bring the midpoint to the market. But there are only 5 positions that would actually needed to be raised because with the change, they fell below the new grade, which totaled about $18,300 a year. So the new schedule allows more steps, allows us to hit the market a little better with starting pay. So our current staffing picture is we have basically 40 full-time positions. We are down 10 positions. And so we're at 25% of where we need to, we're at 75% of where we need to be. You can see that as far as vacant positions, we have a code enforcement officer that's vacant. We have a full-time rec position that's vacant. We have 2 in public works. And so some of the positions are not just in police, and that's what constituted the change. So our staffing numbers, I know Bonnie had mentioned this. This is from our finance director. Our 2021 budgeted salaries for this year are $2.1 million. Our actual salaries were for 2020, $2 million is roughly what we spent. 2019, we spent about 1.9. So the 3-year average is we've been spending about 1.9 million. Now this is just salaries, doesn't include benefits. But when we talk about where's that money come from to cover that added expense, our budgeted numbers are higher than what we're actually spending. So here's the pay scale. It's hard to read. And then this is the 2021 that was in your packet. So the big emergency that we have that we're dealing with is police. Police have 13 full-time positions and 2 part-time. Currently, we're at 7 full-time and 2 part-time. So we're almost at half of where we need to be. So how does that affect our policing? Well, on first shift, we have 1 position open. On second shift, we have 2 positions open, and on third position, we have 2 positions open. So in other words, in second and third shifts, we only have 1 officer available. And then if that officer is on vacation, on days off, we may have no one available. So when people call 911, someone will respond. It's probably going to be Sedgwick County and maybe Wichita because we have agreements that we share on calls. But it may not be a Bel Aire officer. So that's the big concern that council is facing and the big reason that this salary schedule needed to be adopted and adjusted. So the financial impact for the budget, again, about 140,000 extras needed. Of that, 120 for salaries, 20 for capers and FICA. Again, that doesn't include the insurance. So how do we fund that? So an additional about 12,000 will come out of the enterprise funds, which 4,000 will come out of water, 4 out of sewer, and 4 out of trash, because you saw some of those positions work in utilities. So and then the rest of it in the general fund. So police is a general fund. We have an annual savings of about, or we're projecting an annual savings this year of about 300,000 when we refinance the land debt and pay down some of the debt with all the land sales we've had. Because some of the properties we're getting rid of, it's going to save us about 250,000 per year in special assessments. So that easily covers that cost and allows for extra dollars to go other places. So my recommendation is approve the salary schedule tonight, and then maybe we'll look at, because this schedule doesn't make all the changes that WSU recommended, but maybe look at next year or every year, basically taking a look at it and see if we need to make any adjustments. So I hope that kind of explains what it is you're facing tonight and why you're considering doing what you're doing. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if I can.
Mr. Mayor?
Dr. Schroeder.
Ty, you explained it already, and I'm just going to ask you to explain it again just so it's clear. it kind of looks like on this salary schedule, we gave everybody in the entire city a raise, is what it could look like at first glance. That's not exactly how it happened. Can you just kind of explain how changing the salary scale doesn't mean everybody in the whole city got a raise? Because some of those numbers not making sense. You talked about the actual numbers of who's going to get a raise and who's not, and the difference of changing the scale and actual dollars going out to who. Just
Right.
reiterate. You explained it fine. I just
Sure.
one more.
No, that's a good question. So if you look at the schedule, the proposed schedule, what's happening is the whole schedule is shifting to the right. So in other words, like the first 7 steps that was there today are being erased. And so we're starting basically on like a step 7 today, and then it goes out another 15 steps. So again, when the study said we look at the midpoint, so what they looked at is basically step 7. We're step 7 compared to all the other cities, and we were under most of them. So they're suggesting we'll move that midpoint over to the right, which is what we're doing. So that's why a lot of positions won't see raises other than a step increase, because they're already falling within that range. So they're not going to fall off of it. Now, the benefit of moving that over is that, number one, our goal is to keep good employees here. So now they were at a step 7, now they're at a step 1. So now we're saying is we recognize that the market has changed. If you do a good job, you'll get step increases. But if you stay with us for 10 years, there's 10 years worth of raises there for you. So again, to keep those employees longer. The other piece is that by moving that over, our starting pay is higher now. So if we do have someone leave, then we can advertise a higher rate, which makes us more attractable for people that look at the dollar amount they're getting paid. And then, so they're going to apply and say, well, if the bottom is this and I come in at that, that's great. And I have room to grow there. So there's more steps that I can stay and that I'll make more money. Because if we don't adjust that, then we have people that are getting to the end and they're bumping up and they don't get raises anymore, even though they still do a good job. And the market says that they should get paid more. Our schedule is old. And so they're stuck.
So for current employees, the only ones, the primary ones seeing a big benefit's the police, but also for the other employees that aren't the police, what their primary benefit is, they can continue to get raises longer. Right now, they would be bumping up to the end because we haven't updated our salary schedule in so long. They would get to their max sooner. And also, we're hoping we might be, if we do lose someone, we'd be able to track someone new. So those are kind of the primary benefits. The police get the big bump right now. Maybe a few other positions get a little bit of a raise as well, but primarily we're hoping to continue to hold people because we're giving some room at the end.
Any other questions or discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I have, I guess, a question and kind of a comment. So, I guess this isn't directly related to the pay scale itself, but the presentation that you showed, the biggest concern I have is just the immediate number of police officers we have and the patrol schedule. So the way I see it, we have at a minimum 2 to 4 vacancies that we'd like to plug as soon as possible. So what are our options as far as if we're not able to hire someone soon, put out hire police officers on a contract basis to fill in the temporary gap that we have?
So the nice thing is with council adopting the pay schedule as it was presented tonight is for police officers, there's a major bump. And so the 2 benefits will be that we're going to pay more than all the other small cities. So our goal is to attract officers that are trained and certified, because it costs the city roughly $25,000 to train an officer. So if we hired an officer that's got no experience and is not certified, then we have to send them to the academy, the state academy that's in Hutch. It doesn't cost us anything, but they're gone for 16 weeks and we're paying that salary that whole time. Then when they get back, they have to ride with one of our officers for about 8 weeks to understand how Bel Aire codes work, how our chief does and handles situations. And so there's almost a half a year of training, and that salary is $25,000. So by adjusting the pay as you've proposed, the goal is that we can, number one, we don't have to wait 6 months to get officers. Hopefully we'll be attracting officers that are already trained and can hit the road or hit the streets within a month or two. And so when we have that many positions open, the goal is to get people on that are certified and ready to hit the streets as quick as possible. The other thing is that, so we don't do contract, but what we do is we'll hire part-timers. And there are officers that work shifts that are able to come in evenings or weekends or whatever and pick up part-time. The issue we had in our current schedule is the starting pay for that is lower than what they're making. Most of them are making where they're at. So the goal is now that if we were to start them out with this higher rate, they're either making that or maybe even less and would be willing to come and work some part-time weekends, evenings for us. So that allows us to get those part-time stopgap people in quicker too, by the adjustment on the salary that you're doing.
So why don't we hire based on a contract basis?
I think the issue that we would run into is getting the officers, because officers look at, well, first of all, we want someone that's certified. So I'm assuming you're saying an officer that works somewhere else, not like a security company.
Right, I'm saying, yeah, certified police officer.
So they are all, typically they're all full-time employed somewhere else. They want to make sure that if they're working for us, they're covered under workers' comp, is the biggest issue. They're not eligible for benefits, but if they're a contract, then we could pay them whatever, but if they get injured, then it's all on them. And so they could potentially be off on their other job. They'd either have to pay for workers' comp themselves or not have it and then risk getting injured. So getting contract officers, they wouldn't do it because of the workers' comp issue.
Okay. Well, I guess my concern is that we continue to have night after night, one officer on patrol, and I want to nip that in the bud as soon as possible. And I'm just looking at all options. I want to make sure as a city, we're doing all the options on the table for getting more officers out there on the later shifts.
And the chief feels that he can do this with what you're proposing tonight. Okay. Because I asked him that, with all the officers, I said, well, surely you can hire somebody from Wichita or some other, place that could come in and pick up some part-time. And he said, well, for what our starting pay is, they won't do it. So I think if this were approved, he could probably get someone in the next week or two actually starting to that work somewhere else. Okay. Could start right away.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Smith.
So we've had quite a bit of discussion on this. I appreciate all the work that Ty has done in incorporating the feedback from the survey or from the study that we did. And I think tonight's the third meeting where we'll have talked about this. And so while it is a special meeting, it's not the first time that we're talking about this. And so I do want to make sure that for anyone that may be watching the first time, they know that we didn't just call a special meeting to approve this and haven't ever talked about it before. So this is our third meeting where we're having discussions here, and I think we've landed in an excellent spot with some great changes, especially for our police officers.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, do we have a motion for item A?
Mr. Mayor, I'll motion to approve the revised City of Bel Aire 2021 salary schedule as presented.
I'll second.
A motion by Dr. Schroeder and a second by Mr. Smith. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Pose same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item 5, adjournment.
Mr. Mayor, I'll motion to adjourn.
Mr. Schroeder.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Schroeder and a second by Mr. Elsoff. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. We are adjourned. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Thank you for a very interesting evening.